was always, yeah, there used to be, whenever you went to those internationals, there was always probably a more entertaining game on after the game when all the kids are out in the pitch playing against each other.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And we were what happened in and you know, Joel would be interested in this, that we lost the first game. We were off, and we all had to sit down afterwards, and Willie Anderson and myself were the two coaches, and we got everybody to come back on a Saturday night, fly into Dublin and trained on a Sunday morning, whether, because they were all playing like Simon Geoghegan's in England and all over the place, and guys in the north, and the guys themselves decided that they were going to get better, and without that, you know, the best coaches have the best team, the best players, no doubt about that. So that's what happened, and it was just hard work on just the guys, and very sad in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the great Gary Halpin died, and Gary was one of the guys who was playing. So it's interesting. It's interesting, but it's completely different. It was, we used to meet on a Thursday night before the international.
And the following year in Twickenham, that was a fantastic win.
The good story about that particular match, there was a guy, Maurice Fields from Malone, was playing in the centre, and the morning of the game, we were staying in a very flash hotel in Chelsea somewhere, and Maurice went round the corner to the bookies and asked the bookies what price would they give him on Ireland beating England. So they more or less said to him to name his own odds, because there was absolutely no chance. We hadn't won in Twickenham for 20 years or something. So he was just about to put a bit of money on. And he said, "What would you give me a double on the other game?" He said, because France were playing Wales. And would you give me a double on Ireland and Wales winning? And France had a very good side at that stage. And the guy said, "Yeah, just pick your odds." So your man picked the odds. So both Ireland and Wales won. So everybody made a few bob. So it was my first interest in professional rugby. We all made a few bob.
That was the great Simon Geoghegan's try, I think, was in that game, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
13-12.
Yes, he played. Yeah. Simon was an extraordinary guy. I mean, Simon, when just go back to how kids develop, the IRFU ran a course in Clongowes during the summer, and they used to bring in an under-19 group of players, as well as the coaches. There were a lot of coaches there, and this particular year, and this kid appeared over, and his father himself, they're originally from Claremorris, I think, over in the west, and his dad and himself appeared over in the boat from London. He was only 18, I think, and then he got a bus down to Clane, and then they got a lift up from Clane to Clongowes, because his dad wanted to play for Ireland. And this blonde kid appeared and ran rings around everybody, obviously. And then he went off and played for the Exiles, obviously. So that's an example of what's great about the game.
And the reception from the English coaches after you beat them, was it warm?
Oh yeah, it was just exactly in the amateur days, certainly. As Brian would say, there was certainly in Twickenham there was a huge dinner afterwards back in London, maybe about 500 people. Because the rugby union would invite all the people, the volunteers and all sorts of presidents and things like that, and the players were in the middle of this. I think just exactly that. There were five from Ireland and 5 from England at each table, and the normal things went on. The props only talked to the props, and the wings only talked to the wings, and but the coaches were all absolutely perfectly fine with everything.
I think Jeff Cook was coaching England at the time, was he?
Jeff Cook was one, and then, I can't even remember, the Harlequins guy, I can't think of his name. Yeah, but there's nothing that a glass of red wine wouldn't cure.
And many games, apart from the first experience against England, how many other games were you involved with England, Brian?
Me, is it? Sorry. Yeah, I think I subbed another time in 1999 over in Twickenham. So my involvement for Ireland in terms of Six Nations is pretty limited. Most of my memories would be Heineken Cup matches. I think what I would have had, because when you're not involved in a team regularly, you almost had like an imposter syndrome. So I'll give you a brief description of how I kind of felt imposter syndrome. Back in the day when we were training, we used to do oldies versus youngies at the start of a training session. So it'd be over 28s against under 28s in a game of tip. And the oldies always won it. So it'd be like Mick Galway, Peter Classy, all those lads. They'd be a self-appointed referee. And I can remember one stage, this is like in 2000, Brian O'Driscoll and Ron O'Gara, Dennis Hickey scored this magical try. Keith Wood, Mick Galway put their hands up, forward pass and brought it back. And as Ron O'Gara and Brian O'Driscoll were running back to get in position, I can remember them distinctively saying, when we're oldies, we'll get our revenge. They were 21 years of age at that stage. So like, they were thinking that they were guaranteed to be here 7 years later. In my mind, I was like, I'll be lucky to be here for lunch. So when you're not regularly picked, you kind of, very hard to have a decent day. So I think that was, a lot of players came and went and kind of, I went back to Leinster and I had a pretty decent career from like 2000 to 2003 and a half. But never really with Ireland did I feel like I belonged or I had a decent say. I was always on the margins, which is very interesting. I'd love to write a book about it, but yeah, that's my experience. Not an awful lot of success, to be honest, at international level.
A lot of players that never got to that level, so congratulations.
Hi.
Well,
I think I have more regrets than anything else. I think I deserved to be picked when I was playing well, and then I got picked when I was, you know, not good enough or not enough experience to deal with the situation. I was probably a bit immature as well when I was younger, so I think there's an awful lot of luck getting selected, whether you're in the right form, you're with the right players, you're with the right management. So there's a lot of luck involved in doing well at the international level as well.
And in the professional era, Joe, does the meals and all that still happen after the Twickenham game?
Yeah, they do. You know, there's some quite good traditions that are continued from the amateur area. And it's interesting, Brian, saying that you definitely need a bit of luck. You do need a bit of luck to get selected and to have a good side. But I think there's less luck involved now because there is a stronger filter and players are watched more closely and players are kind of in the system longer before they get picked usually. Although there's still the odd one, obviously, James Ryan played for Ireland before he played for Leinster. So there's the odd one that has come through, but he didn't suddenly appear on our screen or on our radar. He'd been on our radar for 3 or 4 years before he actually played. So yeah, I enjoy catching up with coaches. It's a pretty lonely job being a head coach sometimes, and there's a little bit of you know, I suppose comfort in chatting to other head coaches because you're always under pressure. If you win, you could have won by more, or you should win next week because you won this week. If you lose, well, you should have won this week, and what are you doing about it? And so it is a continual hooker, and so it's nice to be able to let off a little bit of steam. Not that you do it very often, but that little glass of red wine that Jerry mentioned, that still happens, and it's good to catch up with the other coaches.
And of your memories of beating England, which of the one of the three stand out, or did they all stand out in the 6
Well,
matches?
they stand out for different reasons, really. Yeah, we played them 6 times and we went 3 each. So it was, you know, we got better than 50% with most teams, but England are pretty tough to get more than that with. They had a pretty good run. It was quite nice to beat them. They'd had their T-shirts printed for back-to-back Grand Slams when we beat them in the Aviva. Kieran Marmion started at 9. Connor had been ruled out on the Thursday. We had a team that they didn't think would be capable, and we got a super win that day. Ian Henderson scored a try. Obviously the really big one amidst the beast from the east, -5 degrees in Twickenham, but we warmed it up to be 21-5 up at half time, and I was terrified at half time. Can we still lose from here? But we defended for 8 minutes solid at the start of the second half, and scored the first 3 points of the second half to go 24-5 up. And after that, we were too far away for them to get back into the game. So it was pretty special because that capped off the Grand Slam as well. So there was, it's fun. One of the funny things about England is I remember we lost there 13-10 in my first year coaching, and we'd won the Grand Slam. And I remember being interviewed by someone, maybe at the Sports Awards or something, and they said, "Oh, what a fantastic Six Nations. Just that one bad performance against England." And I actually thought we'd played our best game against England. We went 3-0 down. We went 10-3 up. Rob Kearney scored a set-piece try that was an absolute gem. And they got a breakout try and managed to squeeze the 13-10 result. But I felt we'd played really well that day. So it's funny. It's, as a coach, you're looking for performances that build results, whereas I think sometimes people who are looking to commentate the game look at the result and then create a narrative on the back of the result.
Yeah, and it's probably more relevant now than it's ever been that the results is the one that's analysed more, and particularly when a team loses, it's always something you seem to analyse defeat more than you do victory. Did you ever get your hands on any of the England Grand Slam T-shirts, Joe?
I'm not interested. I'm not interested in any England kit, to be honest, Moggy. All I can say
on eBay or something. We'll have a look and see if I can pick them up for you.
No, but the worst thing for them was that the ad was released. I don't know if you remember coming up on YouTube, but they had these Nike had done this big. I think it was Nike had done this big kind of advertisement, and then they couldn't use it really because they didn't win the Grand Slam because we beat them in the last game of the championship. But the thing I would say that Jerry was mentioning earlier is that England are fantastic hosts. They look after you really well. They are very even-handed. They don't try to, there's some places you go where they will try, to kind of make you uncomfortable or create a circumstance that is unsettling for you. Whereas England, they are very much positive hosts, which we always really appreciated.
Yeah, I've always had a soft spot for them, particularly their cricket team as well, which went down to India there during the week, which was good to see. But I always find playing English sides, and afterwards they're always very hospitable, and it's probably the game you always want to win, and it's probably one you don't like to lose, but overall it's a great experience. I think